So of course, as this dreadful year comes to a close, so does the leaks for this year, but do not worry because we have so-called analysts giving us some lucky predictions about future Apple products that we can make some sort of sense out of. And today's story is very odd because we have two analysts claiming that Apple's going to be launching two versions of the iPad Pro. Now, of course, we've heard many details about a mini LED iPad coming in the first half of 2021, but we now have these analysts claiming that Apple's going to be launching an OLED version of this iPad Pro in the second half of 2021. I'm sorry, but that just makes absolutely zero sense. Why would Apple launch two versions of the iPad Pro in the space of a year? Now this sounds like some major waffle, but unfortunately this is the only story I have, so of course without further ado, let's just try and delve into this. So make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification, and with that being said, let's just tuck in. Now, of course, when one hears a story like this, you're gonna wonder how reliable is this source, because it could just be a Twitter leaker just spewing things out of nowhere, but no. Weirdly enough, this is a source I've covered many times on the channel, and that is the Elec. These guys are a South Korean news site, and they know their stuff when it comes to displays, so yes, this is really the confusing part about this whole thing, because they might be somewhat credible. And I'm struggling to make sense of this because I thought the whole point of Apple transitioning to mini LED was so Apple can get away from Samsung and their OLEDs. Because, of course, Timothy isn't very proud of the fact he uses displays from, of course, his biggest rival, Samsung. Also, Samsung displays cost a pretty penny. In fact, here's a fun fact for you guys. Samsung Display is a separate company from Samsung Mobile, and Samsung Mobile, of course, wants to make some money, and when it comes to their cheaper devices with very tight margins, they want to pinch as many pennies as they can, and so because Samsung displays are so expensive, they decided to use BOE for their cheaper devices. So Samsung themselves find Samsung displays too expensive. So of course, you can now understand why Apple wants to get away from them. At least that's what I thought, because according to these reports, Apple's going to be moving away from Samsung momentarily, and then they're going to come back to them. So yeah, this still doesn't make a lot of sense. And to add to this confusion, Mini LED is clearly the superior display technology. As I've explained many times on this channel, Mini LED combines the benefits of both OLED and LCD. What does this mean? Well, basically, OLEDs have deep blacks, it has great colors, it has a great contrast ratio, but of course you have burn-in, which is a common issue. So of course, instead, Mini LED uses the LED backlighting that prevents burn-in, but has the benefits of OLED that I mentioned previously. So you have the deep, rich blacks that everybody loves about OLEDs, but without the burn-in. That just sounds like the perfect display, right? Like, seriously, this report from the Elec claims that Mini LED is the stopgap technology between LCD, which of course is the current tech the iPad Pros use, to OLED, which is of course what Elec thinks Apple will end up using. And I don't really understand how Mini LED is the stopgap tech here, because Mini LED is the best of both worlds. So if anything, it should be the ultimate display the iPad Pro has. Like, seriously, I am so confused right now. Also, bear in mind, the iPad Pros are not the only Apple products next year to get Mini LED. In fact, we know the next iMac, the next MacBooks, and potentially the next iPad mini should all have Mini LED. So again, that begs the question, if this is a stopgap technology for Apple, then why implement it across various devices, and why go back to an inferior technology like OLED? Now, the second source also claiming this is also a very suspicious analyst, because it's Barclays, and if you live in the UK, you would know that Barclays is a bank. I have a card with Barclays. So is my bank now predicting what's in the next iPhone and iPad? Like, what is happening? What is happening in 2020? What a weird year this is. But anyways, according to Mac Rumors, these analysts at Barclays actually have predicted things right in the past. For example, they predicted that Apple would remove the charger from the box, and of course they did. And even before that, they predicted that True Tone will be coming to the iPhone 8 and 10, and the removal of the headphone jack adapter in the iPhone XS and XR. So weirdly enough, my bank is very reliable when it comes to Apple leaks, and yeah, they pretty much mention the same thing when it comes to these iPad Pros. Except, of course, they add a layer of extra confusion because they mention this OLED iPad will be coming out in 2022 and not 2021. So, to recap, we'll see a mini LED iPad in 2021 and then an OLED iPad in 2022, and that still does not make any sense. I am so confused. I don't understand any of this. Why would Apple do this? Here's the thing, Apple rarely upgrades the iPad lineup. In fact, if you didn't know, the iPad Pros are on an 18-month refresh cycle, so again, it doesn't make sense for Apple to break that cycle to give us two pretty minor refreshes at the end of the day, because apart from the display technologies, they will be the same old iPad Pro we've had since 2018. And yes, I'm aware that Apple has done something similar in the past where they gave us the iPad 3 and 4 in 2012 within the space of 6 months. But let me remind you guys one thing, and that is times are different now. For example, in 2012, we thought the world would end, and of course in 2020, the world is about to end. Okay, jokes aside, I do want to say that technology was booming back in 2012, and so Apple could justify upgrading the iPad as soon as 6 months because there were huge upgrades with the iPad 4, for example, the better chip, the lightning charger, the better cameras. There were heaps of improvements within that 6-month gap, but of course now, as we saw with the 2020 iPad Pro, technology has matured and there are only very few things we can do year over year. So of course, again, why does it make sense for Apple to release two iPads that will be very similar at the end of the day so soon and so close together? If anything, it's just going to piss off customers because of course if you buy the mini LED iPad in early 2021, you're going to be pissed that there's a new version of the iPad Pro already within 6 months. And so, if I haven't already got my point across, I do just want to straight up say, yes, I think this is a bad idea. I really hope these rumors are false, and if this does end up happening, or if Apple is even thinking of doing this, please, Timothy, there is time. Don't do this. This will just be confusing. This will just annoy customers. This is just a stupid idea. Just give us one iPad that has the best things available and call it a day. Don't give us two. I beg you. Right, I think Timothy has finally understood, and if that's the case, then my job is done. And on that note, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification, and with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. See you, peeps.